And then our presentation for today is going to be Billy Merrell, who you've seen now a couple times, so he should be very familiar. This past summer, Billy Merrell produced an ambitious gallery show which utilized technology to matchmake artists for collaboration. So he created something that helped pair artists together. And the reason I thought this would make an interesting presentation is because it might be a way for our group to create some collaborative efforts. During our meeting today, he's going to explain how it worked and ways it could be work better for a potential New York Artists Circle redo. So welcome, Billy Merrell.
Thank you, Ryan, and hello again. I was going to make a joke about you not knowing who I am, but I've been up here 3 times now. I am not a tech bro. I am an art bro. Do not be afraid of the QR code. Let me tell you where it's going. It is going to a demo of an app that we made that I will talk about briefly in a minute. But first, let me explain that I'm a little bit of a Luddite at heart, and it's because I worked for a poetry nonprofit for 10 years, worked on their website. And as much as I love the possibilities of technology, I think many of us have encountered this problem where the allure of technology can often make it so that even though there's this illusion that it brings us all closer together, it can also make us more and more into this fractured reality that we are facing together and more separately. And with that in mind, the problems, as the tech bros will tell you, problems create opportunities. And so that's where we came at it from. I had a friend who, let me back up and say, you guys as the Artist Circle know very well that one of these solutions is to turn the chairs in the shape of a circle. I have a friend who visited me who is a longtime artist friend and photographer, and his wife is a painter, and he moved to Kentucky. And when he visited me and saw the gallery that I started last year, when he was here in April, we were talking about our life pivots. And he was telling me that, similar to me, he's spending a lot of his time herding cats, as he said. And then, but then he said, but I spend even more time just moving chairs over and over again in the shape of a circle. And that made us realize that is actually the kind of work that we, in all of our individual ways, can be doing to fix this problem of fractured reality. And so after a while of talking about that, I was talking to our volunteer software developer about, we're already very engaged in the community, but how can we do even more? And it got me thinking that one of the problems that I was facing is that the artists that I was engaging with are more often than not far more interested in exhibiting their own work than looking at each other's work. And they would come to art openings and they would meet each other then, but what about all the rest of the month? What can we be doing? And so I was like, why don't we figure out a way to have the most ambitious show at that gallery to date, but to be involved, we would require artists to engage with each other's work first. And so that's what we did. I didn't know if it was possible, but Dave, who is our volunteer, I told him about the idea of what if we had a kind of mood board opportunity. It's kind of like a Tinder for artists, if you will. That's a dating app where people have anonymous profiles and then they swipe right or left to based on if they gut instinct like each other. And using that model, what if we had mood boards available? Any artist could create one for free. And if they vibed with each other, they would be open, they would be expressing being open to being paired with each other to collaborate. And then, so the idea was if he could build it in May, over June, they could engage with the app. In July, they would have July to collaborate with each other. And then in August, we'd have a show. And then it miraculously was able to be done because none of this was a new invention. It was all open source technology that Dave was able to utilize. And he pulled it off. He built it over the course of May. some of this is I'm repeating now, but the general idea I just explained. The part I want to add to it, though, is that this isn't really a story about technology. It's really a story about using technology and then finding that human element to make sure it remains a tool and not the point itself. And where that comes in for this is that there was still the human curation side. They were able to propose, indicate that they were open to being paired, but then I essentially took all these different pairs and created the selected pairs from their proposed pairs, if that makes sense. So it dwindled down. There were 95 artists that engaged originally with the profiles. A lot of it was word of mouth. I told a lot of artists that we had already worked with about the opening of the app, and word spread. We didn't do a huge amount of promotion. I did put a flyer up. I should also say the gallery I am talking about had no social media or newsletter or website or wasn't on Google Maps. We were pointedly an offline gallery. But somehow they got the word out themselves. So 95 artists made profiles that led to 210 potential matches. And then I hand selected of those potential matches for various reasons. I made the human curatorial call and made 83 connections. And those folks knew that they could then collaborate over the course of July. And a lot of it was a human touch, like I'm saying. I had worked with many of these artists, so if one artist was paired with another, but I knew that one really hated it if anyone was ever late, and the other person was always late, I'm not gonna pair them up. Some of it was aesthetic. A lot of it, the dream of it was that I was pairing up people across mediums, because I love the idea of having a pattern painter paired with a quilter, or somebody who does ceramics with somebody who was a painter that could paint their vessels, stuff like that. And it worked out. I'm sorry this text is very small. I did bring this booklet. Anyone can come up and look at it afterwards, and it gives the biographies and more examples. But just to briefly tell you about it, for most of them, where did my card go? I don't know. Anyway, a lot of this was, for example, this was somebody who did stoneware paired up with a quilter. And this is how we displayed their collaboration. And because there was such little time, July was a very busy month for everybody. It is the summer, people were traveling, but people found creative ways to make it work. This, for example, Phaedra and Joan. Phaedra already had existing stoneware, and they saw in each other's work some similar shape usage. And so Joan incorporated the shapes of Phaedra's work into her existing quilt. And then for another example, our own Ryan was involved, and he did, my card is out of order, here we go. So he was traveling in Mexico at the time, and he was paired with somebody that goes by the name The Entropy. And they did their actual collaboration back and forth through virtual correspondence. So a lot of people, every collaboration was different. Some of them were more literal, where they sat down together at a kitchen table and talked it through. We had artists that passed artwork back and forth, like mark by mark. But some of them used existing works. We had two ceramicists that one had all these porcelain butterflies, the other one had all these organic shaped vessels. And they took two different existing works and then presented them, creating a new context where the vessel was full of the butterflies, for example. And then for Kay and Louisa did more watercolor and collage stuff. And Kay, who's a newly retired scientist, has been doing a bunch of mosaics, but was curious about getting into stained glass. So she turned one of Louisa's simple sketches into a stained glass piece. And then the collaboration I did is I paired myself with a quilter that I fell in love with during Needlework Show, which was the one in April. And she passed me all this fabric, and I painted patterns on it, and dudes and flowers, and passed her the fabric back, and I didn't know what she was going to do with it. But then, over the course of a few weeks, she sent me a mock-up, which is much to my dismay at the moment was a already obsolete wall-hung calendar, which I was like, why would you do that? It's already obsolete. But then it became clear to me that her vision for it was more in the tradition of quilting, which I was not aware of, so I would never have chosen. And it became a kind of time capsule in a sense of the show itself, because the months that she had were only summer months. So she had May, June, July, and August in there, which happened to be the months of the collaboration project as a whole. And then we sold it at the opening. We were very proud of ourselves. And then more proud of that, I was worried because of the dwindling numbers. Only 9 pairs came up with something. But so many of the artists that hadn't really engaged since they started a profile did come back, and they knew that the party would be full of people that were open to collaborating, and therefore they were able to actually meet in person the people that they were paired up with, even if they didn't meet during a collaborative time period. They were able to meet and talk then. And I've heard from many of them that they then have collaborated since, all of which I find very heartening and very fascinating. So with that in mind, I'm going to re-point out that the point of the app is, the point is not the app. The point is the endeavor. The app became the room, so to speak, in which we all met, and it became the chairs themselves turned into the shape of the circle. And again, the real work was the human work that happened at kitchen tables and in parks and late night texts and across space and time. Woohoo. So, and where the app is now, because it was already built, it costs very little to keep it up. And so because of that, people around the broader New York than just the community we engaged with, and in fact, they could do it from anywhere in the world, can still make profiles, collaborate. And this has now become an ongoing project for us where with very little lift, we're able to send out a notice. We've paired new people up, and that leaves us the very real possibility that we can use this existing app within the artist circle, which we will be figuring out how to do. And we've learned a lot from before. I think we would want a lot more lead time than just giving folks a summer month, because the longer people have to collaborate, the more ambitious their work can become, and the less it would be people using existing work and instead making things that are new, which is always more exciting.
Is the app available?
The app is available. It's not in the App Store. It's a web app, so it's an application, but no download required. If we put back up the QR code, you can go to collaborative.art, or you can go to that will take you to the demo version. If you create a login, it'll start tracking your own preferences. But that link will take you to something that just lets you see what it feels like to do it, even without creating a profile.
So I was curious, what were some of the things that worked with this first endeavor, and what were some of the things that need some improvement? Yeah,
I mean, what worked mostly was that people really engaged with it the way we hoped they would, which is that, again, this isn't, you don't upload a bio or give your name or tell too much. There are 5 images at most, and it rotates at random through them, and then you can put in a bunch of keywords and phrases about what your vision is for your work. And people there were thousands and thousands, even though there were only 95 profiles made, there were 8,000 or something page views to them. People spent roughly 3 seconds on each mood board before deciding, which I find fascinating, but is also what we thought would happen.
And I mean, so using the app, it literally is like Tinder. You look at these photos and you're like, oh, I'm into that.
It's like gut check. Am I interested or not? Vibe, not interested.
So if you were going to redo this experience, what would you do differently? And what would you do curatorially differently for our group specifically?
Well, the main thing is giving people more time. But second from that, I think especially in our context, there should be a kind of in-person aspect before the actual curating of who's paired with who. Because this worked for this purpose, and the proof of concept worked for a virtual only expanded ability of that. But in our context, I think it's very nice if we built into some version of an app specific for our group that you can vibe with each other for a period and then more or less confirm. If you think of speed dating, as opposed to if Tinder also had meetups,
Okay.
where you would confirm that you were aligned in terms of not just aesthetics, but personality. I think the fruit of everyone's labor would be far more, there would be a lot more production. Because some people just, when they finally went to meet up, they were like, this person's a flake. No, I'm not spending hours and hours and hours. And some people, you know, when they met up, they were like, oh, we could do so much more. You're so generous with your time. You're so generous with your materials. This is a match made in heaven. But you don't really necessarily know that because the vibe-based thing alone only does some of the job. It's a fun part of the job. But
Fantastic. We have a question? Sure. Let me get it to you.
I had a similar idea when I was working with a famous curator once, and one of the things that they suggested was that you have like this, we're so motivated to do our 12 by 12 because it goes towards a mutual goal.
Right.
And so this curator who said, well, if you want to kind of have like more established artists join your collaboration idea, you should have a charity or something like a food bank or something so that the people have a common, and it could be only 50% or something like that. It doesn't have to be like the whole cost of a sale, but that you're working towards kind of a mutual charity goal. That's what they suggested to get engagement.
no, I think there's real wisdom there. I think there is definitely a subset of the artist population that is by far more motivated to get involved if it's for for common good. I do have to say that is also a portion that really would be in it for making their own work. And some people, if they spend 50 hours on a thing, they want to recoup their value. So, but I'm always in a favor of let's use it for some other greater good,
Kristen?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because my question was, you spend all this time collaborating with a person and you have a piece of art and it doesn't sell, then what happens to it?
Yeah, and
Who gets it?
For ours, it was case by case. Some of them, they just negotiated that out. My collaboration sold, so luckily we didn't have to fight over it. I would have been like, it's mine.
Yeah, but I think she's right,
No,
that
that's true.
if there's a purpose for it, and that thing will go to that purpose, and maybe each person will share in it a little bit, but,
It's true.
I
mean, yeah. Yes.
But also, I know as artists, we're asked so much to donate our work that it's too much. So it's a balance, it's a balance. Yeah. I'm interested when the likes, people like that would, if I was a teenager now, I would be a basket case with all the social media, and that's that kind of thing. Like, I don't want to know how many people liked my work. How does that?
Well, that's the thing is I had access to the back end data of who was paired with who and et cetera, but we did not through the front end of it, through the website, through the app, you could not see numbers like that. It wasn't like, you're the top vibed artist. Like, we didn't really have that front facing for them, and because I didn't want people to feel that way. But
Well, and just generally, I mean, how many of you know everybody's name in here and what kind of art they make? I feel like this could be an opportunity for our group to explore each other's work and find collaborative moments with each other. So it could be something that I'd be interested in pursuing if other people in this group also are hoping to make connections with other artists.
and I would add to that it's scalable and gamified on some level. Like,
What does that mean?
when you, in terms of your engagement, part of what's so fun, because you can look at it and vibe or not in little 3-second or more, increments. This is the kind of thing you could do while waiting for the bus. You can do, waiting for your bathtub to fill up. You could do, waiting for an elevator.
I love a bath.
We also, during COVID, had the mail show. I forget what it was called. That was really exciting, where you mailed a piece to someone and they finished it. And I know I did one with Fran that it influenced my work.
Sure.
Because that was when she put a drawing in my pocketbook, and I really liked it. And I was like, I don't draw like Fran, but I want drawing, and I worked out and figured out my own way of doing that. So, and then I had one with someone, and I wasn't inspired at all by their work, and it was hard.
Right.
But,
This is also reminiscent of, some of you in the room I know did it, the telephone gallery game, where you take someone else's piece and you're influenced by it to make another piece. So it's one of many things that's happening right now, but it could be tailored specifically for our group, which could be interesting.
Hi, I'm Cecilia André, and I wanted to say in favor of this amazing idea, because I feel like we are, as artists, have this innate kind of contradiction of going so much into what's your work and trying not to be like influenced in a way. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I think it's such a expansive practice to be influenced, and not be afraid of it. And so many opportunities have happened to me through artists. And I also, some of you know, give gallery tours. And sometimes and then I curate all those galleries to which one am I going to walk, which one do I like. There's a lot of similarities, and I'll ask people in the galleries, did you know, like 2 blocks away, there's a show and it really talks to this show? And they were like, oh no, we never have time to leave the gallery, or know about this.
Right.
So it's almost like for us, like, sometimes if you have this opportunity to get a little bit out of your work and not be afraid of wasting time, which is a natural worry you can have or something, and just kind of flow with it. I think it can bring a lot in terms of opening your ideas. I don't think collaboration, you have to think for the final thing. What will the final result be? How am I going to share it? Who's going to store it? It will drive you crazy. But if you go a little through another way, that would be a channel of how does this resonate? Why does this resonate? Sometimes it's almost like the opposite work of yours gives you something that kind of shakes you up. So I really like this, and I think there would be a great value to doing it in this group, which I really cherish, this opportunity of being together and of being one-to-one, and sometimes more unusual connections can be made, like in the breakout rooms, but I think in this way, great.
Exactly. It's meant to be playful. It's meant to be an expanding of one's own curiosity, inspiring each other, sharing materials, learning new mediums. We also at the opening, to knowing that there were a bunch of the potential collaborators that didn't engage, we filled the evening with different games, if you will. So we had all these people bring in their own sketches, and they collaged each other's work. We did the Exquisite Corpse game, which if you know is started as a literary thing in pre-surrealism, and then it was gamified as this way of drawing characters together and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. And it's meant to be
Process-oriented.
process-oriented, constraint-based creativity.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Billy.
That was a lot of food for thought. I really liked the personalizing of all this social media. That's a great thing to think about in this age